Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you guys for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. I want to thank everybody for all the well wishes and prayers and positive words of while I was recuperating. I don't know what kind of cold it was, but it kicked my butt and hung on for about a week. And I apologize if I cough into the microphone tonight. I will try to mute it before I do, but they're so random. I don't know if I'll get the mute on in time. But joining me here tonight, and Robbie is joining us from a remote location because the folks in South Carolina took that hurricane pretty hard. Over 1 million folks out of power, Robbie included. And no end in sight on that. It's probably, he was saying, a week to 10 days before some parts of them get power back. So folks, if you know anybody who's affected by any of these storms, say a prayer for these folks, because there's a lot of folks that are hurting. Like we were talking before the show, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, some parts of North Carolina, there are over 500 roads closed in North Carolina alone. This storm surge is hitting a lot of people, and they said when it hit, it was 10 to 12 feet. That is a tremendous storm surge. 6 feet is a lot. 10 to 12 feet of storm surge, that floods cities. And there's a city, I believe it was in North Carolina, it's just gone. A small town, just gone. Oh, there it went. Sorry, knew it was going to happen pretty quick. But boys, thank you guys for being here. Robbie, especially you, under the circumstances, it's amazing you're here. Amazing you were able to make it at all. And Doc, thank you. I know, Colorado is a long way from the storm surge, but you guys have your own issues out there to deal with as well. So, yeah. Boys, I'm glad you guys are here tonight.
Yeah, well, like I had a whole lot else to do.
Sitting in the dark otherwise. Listen to the dogs fight and bark at rabbits.
Yeah, that would be the extent of my evening.
Well, folks, I planned on holding this show for a while because we just did the everyday carry bag just a couple weeks ago. But with Robbie out of power and so many people affected by these storms, I thought this was the perfect time to talk about long-term preparedness, not just what you've got quickly to hand when things go bad, but what you're going to do to survive when things like this go bad. And again, we're going to cover a lot of territory, and it's not just about what people are afraid of in the current political climate. And that ain't looking good, to be honest. No matter who wins, things are going to get ugly. But all that aside, I'm not going to take a stance on that one way or the other. But we all know things are getting bad and times are getting tough. But with this hurricane hitting and affecting so many states, and we've had tornadoes take out towns and wipe towns off the map here in Missouri. We've got the New Madrid fault line, which the last time it went off big, it knocked dinner plates off of walls of houses in Denver, Colorado. It made the Mississippi River roll backwards for 3 hours. So yeah, that's a tremendous amount of power. So what we're going to cover tonight, if it prepares you for any one emergency, it can prepare you for a lot. So whatever emergency you're worried might come your way, we're going to, hopefully tonight we can give you guys a little bit of more preparedness and knowledge for what to do when and if that hits. Boys, my hat's off, my heart's out to everybody that's affected by these storms. My wife's sisters and her mother just moved to Florida. Fortunately, the part of the state that they're in didn't really get hit. Heard from Craig Burhart. He's fine. He lives in Florida. He said he lives in the redneck part, and they really didn't get much damage. And so the redneck part of Florida sounds kind of entertaining, but at least people we know that are in that area are okay. But we got a lot of folks that listen to us that are in affected areas. Right in the path of that thing. And like I said, it's affected multiple states.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Yeah. One of my good friends was just last week was at a business conference in Atlanta, and she lives in Louisiana. And there were people from North Carolina and Tennessee who are reps that had driven down, and she and I were talking, and she's like, I don't even know if they had homes to go back to with all the roads being closed, that they could even get back. So for those of us who travel, like myself included, it also brings up some possibilities for us. If you're a traveling type person and you're on the road a good bit, considerations for you, so that if something bad did happen while you were out on the road away from your home, if something bad happened at home, would you be able to self-sustain for at least a little while? It's just something to think about.
And one of the big questions y'all need to answer, and we can't answer this question for you. This is a question you're going to have to answer yourself. Is this a situation that requires you to bug out or to bug in?
Right.
Those are different levels of preparedness. There's a whole different set of plans for each, but you have to decide: are you a person with disabilities? Can you not physically bug out? So the only option left to you is bugging in, and it can be done. It really can, but you've got to factor in for a lot more hazardous problems from bugging in. If you bug in, you're opening yourself up to as a target for looters. Because it doesn't matter. We saw it in Hurricane Katrina when it took out big chunks of downtown New Orleans. Looters were everywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens, what kind of emergency is. It happens, and it's the worst in human nature. And Robbie and I and Doc have all seen it.
Yeah.
So you've got to be prepared for that.
I mean, I'll put it like this, man. I grew up in Mississippi, which also on the Weather Channel they call it the landmass between Louisiana and Alabama. And so folks may not know this because Louisiana, New Orleans got so much coverage because the levees flooded during Katrina, but actually the Gulf Coast of Mississippi had it was roughly I think it was a 30-foot storm surge, from talking to my brothers the other night, from Katrina that decimated the Mississippi Gulf Coast region. And my brothers they still live there, and they were saying, hey man, we were literally one step away from complete anarchy with all the looters and things like that. My wife was living in Hattiesburg, which is 70 miles north where she and I grew up, and people were getting killed over a case of one of her friends got killed over a case of water. So this is trying times, and desperate people are dangerous people, y'all. I mean, that's
a fact.
That is true. And Robbie and DA, I know will echo that. Desperate people are dangerous people, and people, I mean, something goes down. I mean, we're 3 days away from collapse at any given time, 72 hours away from a collapse, and people will kill you over a can of beanie weenies. You know what I mean?
In 2001, tornadoes ripped through Battlefield, Missouri. We got some. I was living there with my wife and the boys. Were all little, and tornado ripped through there and tore up a big chunk of Battlefield, Missouri. And as soon as the tornado cleared, we were fortunate. We didn't get much damage. We had a lot of debris in the field behind our house, but the house itself didn't get much damage. There are two types of people in this world. When that tornado cleared, my brother-in-law and I left the house, made sure everybody was okay. Then we left the house and started going to neighbors' houses, seeing who was okay and helping people out. There was an elderly couple that was trapped in their basement. We dug them out, and we were doing stuff like that. But there were other people that all they were doing was walking through the area and picking stuff up and taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where you get environmental injuries, environmental emergencies. People were putting their generators inside their garages for fear of for looters stealing their generators. And then on top of that, they're now, they got power, but they're giving themselves carbon monoxide poisoning on top of that. So preparation, man, we're going to talk about the 7 P's. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So we're going to be covering that at length tonight. So
absolutely. And SHTF, or shit hits the fan scenario, comes in many forms. So again, we're not gonna go down the political rabbit hole with
No.
that. What we're discussing is preparedness and keeping your family safe in a time of emergency. um, I think, to me, one of the big priorities is having a way to defend yourself. Uh, but when you're talking bug out versus bug in, one of the main thing that you're going to need when you have to bug out that you don't need when you bug in is shelter. You're going to need some sort of tent or something that you can sleep in until you can get to another shelter, to an alternative place. And there's a million of them. I'm not I'm not going to preach a brand name to you or anything like that, but you can buy a cheap tent at Walmart that'll get you through. Um, but you've also got to plan for the size of your group. If you've got small kids, you need a tent big enough that all of you can sleep in it. And you also got to remember you're going to have to carry supplies for those little kids because they can't carry gear. You can't put a 40-pound pack on a toddler and expect him to keep up or even stand up. So many factors affect how you bug out if you choose to bug out. If you choose to bug in, there are factors that are going to go into keeping you safe in that as well. Do you have a basement? Do you have a water supply? Because in emergency situations, city utilities shut down. Now, granted, water in your pipes runs on pressure, not electricity. But once those generators kick out, it's only going to be a matter of time before the pressure in those lines dies. So if you're losing power and it's going to be out for a while, first thing you need to do is fill your bathtub with water.
Can I interject here real quick?
Shoot.
There is a
Hell yeah.
product. There is a product out there right now. I'm going to put it in the chat. Y'all are going to see it. It's called a water bob. It's a 100-gallon water storage unit, and it will fit in any conventional bathtub out there. They're not super expensive, but I would recommend if you've got a bathtub in your house, get you one of those. It's a good, nice piece of insurance to have with you, to have some emergency storage. Like DA just said, if you notice, if you know the storm's coming in, go ahead and prep then. Go ahead and get your water storage, because we need roughly about a gallon of water a day. You can live off of 2 liters a day, like a half a gallon a day, but you're going to be dehydrated, and especially you don't need that. So yeah, at ED Testament, yeah, good old water blivets. That's exactly what it is. It's a water blivet. If you can get some sort of water storage there, and even if you're doing long-term water storage, make sure you have it stabilized with some sort of there's a pyrazine drops that you can utilize in there as well. But yeah, he hit the nail right on the head with water storage. So your shelter, and then you think about it, fire, water, food, and shelter. Those are your cornerstones of survival to make sure that you can be viable. Because we can live what 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, but you ain't going to be happy either way.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got those are some things you have to think about. So the time to be in this situation. This is time to be proactive rather than reactive, because I grew up in the South, in the Gulf coastal region, 70 miles from the Gulf Coast. We get hit with tornadoes and hurricanes regularly. Now I live out west where we have tornadoes, and we also have blizzard and everything like that too. So those are definitely some things to take into consideration, because I've hit every extreme with weather, and I have to be prepared for it. And Greg House had a good point. Your water heater if it's full, it's got 30 to 40 gallons of potable water. So even your toilet tanks, if you got a toilet tank, that's potable, that's drinkable water. Obviously, any kind of water source from a questionable source, you want to boil it for at least 5 minutes. If you don't have a fire source there, if you got bleach, the rule of thumb is 1 drop of bleach per liter of water.
When in doubt, boil it out.
Absolutely, 100%, man. And I've got a wood burning stove, so I've got alternate heat. I have to think about cold weather emergencies out here, with things like that.
Folks, and if you think you're not going to be able to cook because everything in your house is electric, there are about 1,000 different videos on YouTube on how you can make a rocket stove in your backyard in about 5 minutes
Yeah.
with a couple of concrete bricks.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, those things work. You can cook on a rocket stove. I've
Yes.
done it. We used to make a modified rocket stove whenever we'd go camping. We had the campfire, but we cooked on the little rocket stove. And those things are fantastic,
Yeah.
and they do a good job of heating.
Yeah, landscaping bricks or just regular bricks like that, paver stones, anything like that, you can make a rocket stove out of that. Hell, you can make a rocket stove out of a number 10 coffee can.
Seen it done.
And yeah, and it works like a freaking champ. So Casey Calloway put something on here. Just make sure you don't have the blue thing in your toilet tank. Absolutely, yeah. You know, your toilet tank definitely needs to be the untreated. It needs to be just plain old water in there. So things like that, man. You know, like my stove, you know, and Testerman, ED Testerman just said, you know, same thing with me. It's like I got my stove with a flat top on it, so I can put a trivet on there and I can cook, and it provides me with a heat source. So these are things to think about to make yourself more viable, like food. What's the old thing? What they say? Everybody needs to have like 3 days of food, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
At least 3 days.
At least 3 days. And so let's think about this. I would say have at least 6 days of food. You know, your canned goods, your freeze dried food, anything like that. Your non-perishables is what you're looking at. But you think about your caloric intake. Let's just say 2,000 calories a day is our rough caloric need. But dude, we can survive off of 1,000 calories a day, and we're going to lose a little weight, but let's be honest, most of us could lose a little weight and it ain't going to hurt us. We got some fat to live off of. So if we lost a little bit of weight, well, that, you know, that's a side benefit. But you know, if your meals, you could cut your food down to where you're taking in, you got to have enough energy to survive on. You got to have enough energy to move around and do your basic tasks. So just things to think about. Sorry, I'm running on, man. But
no, absolutely.
These are
and in an emergency like this, remember, one of the first things you're going to lose is everything in your fridge and deep freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you've got the ability, like a Coleman stovetop, or you make a rocket stove, or you like cooking over a campfire, you're going to lose pretty much everything if you don't cook it and eat it. And some things can be, especially if you got a smoker, you could smoke some things and they'll last for days outside. And remember, we talked about pemmican. Pemmican is one of those foods. If you've got it prepped ahead of time, that stuff will last for years. I'm planning on this winter. I'm probably planning on making a good supply of pemmican just to keep on hand. But there's a lot of things you can do that are just little things here and there that can actually get you prepared. You guys ever heard of a Crisco lantern?
Oh yeah, yep.
Go to near any grocery store, buy you the big can of Crisco lard. My mother used to cook with it. You take one of those and go to get you any hardware area or Walmart, buy you a lantern wick, or even two, because those cans are pretty big. And then you cover that wick with that Crisco fat, kind of rub it in a little bit, and then take a stick or a knife and push that wick all the way to the bottom, leaving the top sticking out. That thing will burn for days.
Literally,
and it'll put out a lot of heat.
Yeah, and you can if you got like DA said, if you put, that's like a number 10 can of Crisco. If you put 2 to 3 wicks in that sucker, not only will you get heat and light, you can also have a little. It's almost like a little sterno camp stove that you can boil water, you can cook over it, things like that. So any of that stuff, and so you got your fire, your water, your food, your shelter, but you also got to think about hygiene. As far as being hygienic, and so if you don't have water, where are you gonna do your business? You know what I mean? So you've got to think about sanitation. So bags of lime. I've pooped in a slit trench many a times, man. In the military.
Cavil.
Yeah, and so think about these things, and you don't want that to be around any kind of natural water source. You want it to be downhill, downstream from your water source. you're washing your hands, hand washing. I cannot emphasize that enough. Hand sanitizer is good, but you definitely need good old soap and water. So make sure you keep yourself clean, because the cleaner you are, that's gonna help prevent disease later on. I'm talking, environmental medicine right now, but that's a big consideration that people don't even think about in these types of situations. So
I can tell you from living in the field, you can take what they call a horse bath out of a canteen cup of warm water. I've done it many a time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, and
cleaning the pits and the privates, and
we called it in the flight medic field. We called it doing an airplane bath. You hit the nose, the wings, and the tail. You know what I mean? So, and hit it in that order too. Do your face before you wash your butt. So. 45-120 Sharp said, Doc, is there any rules of thumb about how much activity loss from a reduced calories and intake? I don't have anything that I can quote directly. I just know that if you drop your caloric intake down to half of what it needs to be, you're gonna have to expect some deficit in your performance. Our body's a remarkable machine. It'll compensate for a while, and it'll start eating fat. What we don't want it doing is eating our muscle. We don't want it catabolizing our muscle. So that's why, high protein type stuff is going to be good. Good food supplementation, like DA was talking about, the pemmican. It's got your fats, it's got your carbs, it's got your proteins, things like that. As long as you have a good, adequate intake of your proteins, then that's going to help you out a lot. Like beans and rice, that's natural proteins, fibers, vitamins, things like that. So just know that you're gonna lose some performance and some capacity, but if you're at least taking in 1,200 calories a day, you'll be okay. You can function. I've done it. And so
KC, do not use bacon grease for an oil lamp. That will catch fire and burn your house down. Extremely
flammable.
Save that for cooking with, though.
Yeah. I mean, you could, what if you got olive oil? Hell yeah, you can use olive oil. Just soak a lamp wick into that and put it in like a container. I mean, they had those, they used it since ancient times. I mean, they talk about it. It's since biblical times, you know what I mean? So
I saw a DIY video on YouTube. They took a mason jar and some of those little glass rocks that you put in like aquariums, and they filled that rock. They put a wick in there and held it, then filled the glass with those little rocks, and then topped it off with extra virgin olive oil, then lit it. Used it like a candle, and it burned for days.
They're great.
If y'all are in the country and you have your own well, that's great. But if you lose power, that's still going to be a problem for you. Go to Harbor Freight. They sell these little solar charging units. It ain't enough to run your entire house, but it can run that well.
Yeah, it can run your well pump. Another thing too is if you have the opportunity, it depends on how deep your well is, to build enough pressure in your pressure tank. You can get a hand pump for your well to actually draw water up and put it into your tank and pressurize your tank so that you actually have water in your house. And you're gonna have to do that manually every so often, because you're doing what the well pump normally does. But that's another option to do as well.
Hey, little Patty. Robbie, a lot of folks in the chat. I know you can't see the chat because while you're with us tonight. Robbie can't see the chat at all, but a lot of folks have been asking how they can help.
Well, I got my phone kind of halfway going, but it's running a little bit slow, so I'm kind of behind. So what were you saying though?
They were wanting to know how they could help.
Don't worry about me. There's plenty more people that are probably in worse shape than I am.
My advice, folks, is if you want to help, reach out to the Red Cross in those affected areas. Don't send anything to us, because by the time YouTube gets it to me, it's going to be too late to help anybody. Send it directly to the American Red Cross or the Salvation Army or anybody that's doing work in that area. And for God's sake, if you see a lineman that's taking a break, thank that guy. because you guarantee those guys are working 18, 20-hour days trying to get people's power restored. Those poor guys, they take a beating whenever one of these events happen, and those guys they're doing the Lord's work. They really are.
Amen to that. Amen to that. They are indeed. Casey Calloway asks, can you run a diesel on the oil out of a transformer? Brother, you got me. Any of y'all know?
I have no idea.
I mean,
I'm not even sure what kind of oil's in a transformer.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of oil it is. I know.
Kevin Butler, is that thunder in the background? No, that's Robbie's AC unit in his car. He's trying to keep from sweating his butt off.
I know an old deuce and a half would run off damn near anything you throw in it.
If you could get a 2x4 in the tank of a deuce and a half, it'd run off of it.
I think it would run off kerosene, jet fuel, gasoline, diesel, cooking oil. It'd run off anything.
You could dump 20 quarts of oil right just straight into that thing, and if you get it turned over, it's going to run.
You literally could.
It might belt smoke and run a little rough, but it's going to keep right on chugging. It
would run on anything. That'd be a great vehicle to have. Good Lord.
Yeah, I'd love to have an old deuce and a half.
I would too, man.
Yeah, they literally will run. It's a true multi-fuel engine.
Oh, They'll
run off. If it's liquid and you can get it in the tank, it's probably going to run on it. If it's combustible in any way. Yeah,
and it's so durable too. Those things, 6-wheel drive too. Those suckers will go through damn near anything.
Mm-hmm. Truly unstoppable vehicle.
So Greg House said something. The Southern Baptist Association helps a lot of people during disasters. More percentage of donations go to the people in need. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that, brother. That
is good to know.
That's good info. So reach out to churches that are in the Southern Baptist Association, and I'm sure there's probably churches in these areas who are in your area. Maybe if y'all are on the East Coast that are organizing drives to get supplies to these folks in need.
Problem is, most of the churches are out of power too, though. Everybody's out of power.
Yeah, I mean, in the areas that have not been affected, there's probably churches in the unaffected areas that are putting together food drives and things like that, supplies. I mean, your basic necessities, folks. Let's talk about feminine hygiene products for women out there. So feminine hygiene products, that's a big thing. Oral care, your dental care. I can't emphasize the hygiene aspect enough, because good hygiene precludes disease. Disease in these types of situations, like SHTF situations, that precludes death. So we've really got to be considerate of hygiene. Goes a long, long way.
I just thought of another charity that y'all could reach out to. There's a charity, and it's based right out of here in Springfield, Missouri. It's called Convoy of Hope. You just look up Convoy of Hope, and there's ways to donate right on their websites. But I guarantee in the next day or two, they're going to be sending, semi trucks loads of food and supplies that way. They do it every time there's a major emergency.
Good.
Yeah, I've heard about them before.
Yeah.
I know they gave us a carload of supplies when Battlefield got hit. We were just out of power, and they still loaded us up.
Oh, we was talking about pooping. So pooping and peeing. Okay, so here we had an old saying talking about, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So don't waste your water. So, but if you do have a good, adequate water supply, but your pressure is sucking, you can still fill your water tank on your toilet with water and flush it. So that's independent of your pressurization system in your house.
Even if you don't have one of those water bladders, grab every pitcher you've got, fill them.
Amen.
Put them on the counter.
Canteens, water bottles, everything.
Anything you can fill, and even if you collect rainwater, which I know a lot of states forbid it, but it still happens. If you collect rainwater with a life straw, that's perfectly drinkable.
That's right. Amen. Yeah. So if you've got a cistern, make sure that cistern's full. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, born to run. Yeah, it does not need to be drinkable water if you're pouring it in a toilet. Those are things, again, just for hygienic areas. Medications. Those of us who are on medications, make sure you have an adequate supply of medications on hand.
I try to keep an extra month's supply on hand.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So, I mean, at least have as much.
I'm on heart meds, and I gotta have them.
Right, you gotta have it, dude. And so, people who are on medications, make sure you have enough medications on hand. I know people who are on insulin, it's got to be cooled, and if you don't have power, that can present a big problem. However, there are portable coolers / refrigerators / freezers that you can run off of a portable battery bank that you can link solar panels up to them and charge that. And then, you know, if you don't keep anything else cool, if you had to keep your insulin cool, you could keep that insulin refrigerated. So those are just things to consider. Other medications, you can get other medications like antibiotics and things like that from Jace Medical. If you have an AFSA or HSA account like our company takes, then you can get antibiotics. It's even got a usage chart, dosage chart, and everything for that kind of stuff. Toilet paper, paper towels, trash bags, big contractor grade bags, anything like that. So. Yeah, and little Patty, my sister told me to put a 30-gallon trash bag in the toilet to save water. That's a great idea.
And again, folks, if you guys have one of these or don't have one,
yes,
I'd be getting them on hand. This can recharge your phone or a tablet.
Yeah,
it can be used as a flashlight. It's got an emergency radio built up. It'll recharge solar, or run off traditional batteries. And if you don't have any of that, you can sit there and crank it. Is a dynamo powered, and you can buy dynamo powered lanterns at Walmart. Mm-hmm. Those are great to have on hand. But you know, these are just little things. I mean, if you're out of power and the entire area is down, you may not have cell signal.
That's right.
But even during emergency, they can still broadcast on all frequencies, and your cell will still pick up like emergency storm warnings and things like that. Even if you can't, text or call out, you probably still get emergency alerts.
Yeah.
But you never underestimate the value of just an old analog AM FM emergency radio. This thing has proved its value a number of times. Just a great little thing to have on hand, and the fact that it can charge a cell phone or to recharge a rechargeable flashlight or whatever I need to recharge, and then I can sit there. If I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs in the dark anyway, I can sit there and crank this hand generator and build my power back up. So this thing has lots of uses, and it wasn't an expensive purchase.
Right, it's not. I've got one too. I've got one as well. There's some good comments from Mark D. He's talking about the insulin he has doesn't have to be cooled. That's great. Some do, some don't. But if you're in a situation where yours does, Judy Davis said Amazon has bags you can store insulin in on it to have it to soak with water every 3 days. It stays 40 degrees Fahrenheit at 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside weather or ambient temperature, no electricity or batteries needed. That's great. Mark Napier talked about the Jackery power units. There's Jackery, there's Goal Zero, there's Sherpa, there's all kinds of stuff out there, and most of them have the capability to hook in a solar panel supply that you can daisy chain together to.
Well, there are solar powered generators that you can.
Oh, absolutely, man. Again, the big thing is you've got to prepare for this stuff before it happens, so that whatever your situation is, prepare for it before that situation occurs.
That, and I'm a living example of that, because that's why I don't have anything going right now, because I didn't do what I was supposed to do and check on my generator and make sure it was going. I thought, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Yeah. I didn't get to it, and now my generator don't work. And so, like Doc just said, you got to prepare. And if you don't prepare, you ain't got nobody to blame for it but yourself. I'm the only one that could have got out there and checked my generator, and I didn't do it. So get out there and do it.
And I can't emphasize it, man. It's just like with med kits, selling trauma kits to people. A lot of people will just buy a trauma kit or come train with us after they've seen something horrible happen and they had no idea how to react to it. You know what I mean? So you being proactive. Yeah, that's a dart kit, man. So being proactive is a lot less painful It may be painful on your pocketbook. I know everybody's pocketbooks are strained right now, but being proactive is a lot less painful than being reactive.
Well, here's a little thing that might help ease the pocketbooks. And folks, let us know. Let everybody know. This coming Wednesday night, you guys make sure you join us, because courtesy of the good folks over at Archangel Medical, we are going to be giving away this kit. This kit right here in my hand. It's an ouch pouch. It's a good basic first aid kit. We will be giving this kit away on Wednesday night.
Hell yeah.
So make sure you're there, because only people in the chat can win.
Yeah, now Greg Howes, make sure you're not using your shake weight while we're doing that, man. So he posted about it. He said, I can't use a shake weight. It just feels dirty. But yeah, y'all join us on Wednesday night. That's going to be going out. But again, basic first aid, your ouchies, your burns, your boo-boos, anything like that, without the proper wound care can turn into a major life-threatening infection, man. And I'm not trying to make people paranoid. I'm trying to get people thinking. And then also, okay, Robbie, what were you doing at 6 o'clock this morning?
Sitting out here in my patrol car.
Yesterday. What were you doing 6 o'clock yesterday morning?
6 o'clock yesterday morning. I wasn't in my patrol car. I was standing out cutting trees and dragging trees off the road.
Cutting trees and dragging trees off the road. Anytime a storm like this happens, what do we have to do? We had to get trees out of the road. How do we get the trees out of the road? Well, we got to cut them up. What do we cut them up with? Freaking chainsaw. What does a chainsaw do? Chainsaw just screw shit up. You know what I mean? So you got to be prepared. Make sure that if you're working a chainsaw so that you don't have to use that tourniquet, make sure you have your chaps. Make sure you have your face mask, something like that. So it's all prevention, man. When
I was a kid, I knew an old boy that was cutting. It was a friend of mine. He was cutting up a fallen tree, and a chainsaw bit, kicked back, and put a 6-inch gash in his calf.
Dude,
he damn near bled out.
Exact same thing happened to my cousin Leroy, man. He had a big old 42-inch bow saw, and that thing kicked back on him, and it jumped over one leg and laid his calf open, just filleted open. And he took his bandana off his head and made a tourniquet with a bandana and a stick, and still had to get to his truck and drive out. So yeah, it happens, folks. So be careful. Be careful.
You know, you don't realize the danger you're in with those chainsaws.
No, just doing your cleanup. I mean, just doing your cleanup. Even if I've seen more chainsaws honestly kick back from limbing a tree than I have from cutting through the tree like that. Just limbing that tree off, will get you. And so, Casey Callaway.
The chain flew off my lieutenant's saw the other morning and whipped back and just missed his hand by that much.
See, it may not be the storm that gets you. It may be the cleanup, the aftermath. It may be the stuff that happens after it. I mean, because just like around us, we got to worry about the cold weather stuff. I'll come back in a second. But Greg House just put something up. Keep super glue and peroxide handy. Let me educate y'all on this a little bit. Okay, let me educate y'all from a medical standpoint. Super glue is cyanoacrylate. Cyano, it's a cyanide-based compound, so it's toxic. So you want to be very, very, very cautious if you ever had to use this stuff. Number one. Number two, and Greg, and I'm not picking on you, brother. I just want to educate folks here because I've done this for my whole life. If you have an open wound, wash the ever-living piss out of it. Okay? Copious, like 2-3 liters of irrigant, man. Because let me tell you this, if you throw some super glue on there and you don't have all that crap washed out of it, what's going to happen?
You sealed it in.
You sealed all that crap in, and now you're going to get a nasty infection and die. Number two, peroxide. Peroxide is good, but only at quarter strength. Anything more than like 3 parts water, boiled water, and 1 part peroxide will actually debride the tissue and break down good tissue and make it and cause more of a problem. Hillary just asked, can you use paracord as a tourniquet? No. You cannot, because it will become a ligature and will cut your tissue and your nerves. You need to have something at least an inch to an inch and a half wide to use as a tourniquet. If you're going to be improvising a tourniquet, you might as well just bend over and kiss your butt goodbye if you got to bleed that bad to tourniquet off, because how long is it going to take you to make an improvised tourniquet? Buy a freaking tourniquet. Buy a commercial
keep one close
tourniquet.
at hand.
This
is my dart kit tourniquet right there on it, along with medical shears.
Right there. How long did it take me to access that tourniquet?
Not long.
About 3 seconds. No, Harold, don't use a belt. I'm not trying.
If that's all you got, I guess. But
let me add a caveat to that. They did a study on the improvised tourniquets. Belts, straps, scarves, anything like that had a 100% failure rate to occlude your artery. You're trying to occlude an artery, not a vein. Arteries are high pressure. They're very thick, muscular, and elastic. If you're going to use a belt, okay, those of you who saying leather belt, use a belt. Can you twist that belt? You've got to have some sort of mechanical advantage to go into that belt, like a tire tool, like a big ass stick, like something that's going to give it mechanical advantage. Okay, you've got to have something that gives it a twist to actually put a bite on that artery and shut that artery down. Otherwise, you're just causing a venous tourniquet, and you're still going to be bleeding, and you're still going to bleed out. So spend $30 and buy a commercial tourniquet, guys. That's all I'm saying. Kevin, how about a tie? Like I said, anything you wrap around a limb, I don't care. I don't give a fat rat's butt what it is. It's got to be at least an inch wide, but you've got to have a mechanical advantage device, some sort of windlass to spin it, a rod, a dowel, a stick, a flashlight. I don't care. Greg House's shake weight, whatever you got to use. Stick that son of a bitch in there, and you got to start turning. Powdered cayenne will stop bleeding. Some bleeding, not all bleeding, Greg. I guarantee you, you get hit in the femoral artery, powdered cayenne is going to get flushed right out of that. I've seen it.
So there's a difference between bleeding and arterial bleeding. Arterial bleeding takes priority. Just standard bleeding, like if you cut, like well, for example, I don't know if you can see the scar right there, but when I did that right there, I cut that deep, and it's about 6 inches long. I did that years ago. It didn't hit an artery, and like an idiot, I just looked at my boss and said, "I got shit to do. Tape it up, and I'll go back to work." I should have went and got stitches, but I didn't. But that was just a bleed. It was not an arterial bleed. Had that been an arterial bleed, I would have needed 911 immediately.
And yeah, people talk about, like Antonio Vasquez, cotton t-shirt, how bad's a bleed? I don't know. Greg House is talking about cuts, not spraying wounds. Absolutely. Cayenne pepper is a great styptic. I've got a little styptic pen that I use for shaving nicks and stuff like that. Casey Calloway says, how about a ratchet strap? 100%. That's a mechanical advantage. So yeah, ratchet strap would work. It is.
Whenever you're applying that, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you put it on and it doesn't hurt, it ain't tight enough.
Yeah, y'all go to my Dark Angel Medical YouTube channel. I've got a 30-minute free training video that goes through some very informative stuff. It's 100% free, and it could literally be the difference to save somebody's life, man. I'm serious.
Or your own.
Or your own. And I'm not. And trust me, y'all. Y'all are throwing this stuff out here as far as bleeding control. I am not shooting you down to be mean. I'm trying to educate y'all, because there's a lot of misconception out there on what is viable bleeding control and what is not. So I don't want y'all to think I'm being ugly to you. I just want to educate you, because I'm passionate about making sure people have another birthday.
Absolutely.
So medical is another huge component of this stuff. So what about food, DA?
Well, I want to enter the medical real quick, because in a true shit hits the fan situation right now in Robbie's area, the hospitals are overwhelmed.
Yes.
If you got to the hospital, you might have a 12-hour wait, because those hospitals are overwhelmed right now. They're not prepared for these kind of emergencies as prepared as they should be. But the simple fact is, any ER, if it's even operational because of the power situation, is going to be overwhelmed. So in many cases, and so is law enforcement and first responders, in many cases, you are 911.
You're your first responder, bro. 100%. You are your very own first responder in any of these situations. And can I tell you this, man? It's going to be It's going to be a bad situation. People are going to be getting cut. You think, and there are floods. Sewers are going to be flooded over. The water you're walking in is going to get basic. Is going to be an open sewer pit. Jay Freiberg, want the opinion from a paramedic. Sure, I've been a paramedic for 20 some odd years and a critical care nurse. Go ahead, man. What you got? People need to make sure you concentrate on because a little small simple cut can get you dead. He says go to EMT school, 1 semester class, get a kit. 100%, dude. I say that to classes all the time. I teach a 2-day class that gives you actually CEs for paramedics, but it's for layperson and up, and it's way better than a stop the bleed class. And what do we always say, DA and Robbie? Get a kit, get trained, and be the difference. You've got to make sure you know how to use your freaking tools.
And again, folks,
in boxes.
Medical kits are like flashlights in a bad situation. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. At any given time, I've got 4 or 5 kits in the area. I mean, something I can get to quickly. If I'm in the car, I've got a much bigger kit. It's just right there in the car where I can get to it pretty quick. But if I'm out, like if Noah and I are out and filming, or the night when we were when the whole gang of us went out into Combs Ferry, we had I think it was 9 kits spread out between 7 guns.
Yeah, so I tell you, you can't have enough, and it's like they're like they were just talking about the hospitals. You know, Robbie, the hospitals in your areas, they're on generator power, right?
Probably for the most part,
So think about it, man. If you say, hey, man, I want to go to the hospital, or I need to go to the hospital, understand whatever you have, it may be a high priority to you, but it's going to be a low priority to them.
That's why they call it triage.
Why they call it triage
is picking not only who's the most wounded, but who needs the help the most at that moment.
Yeah, and Mark Napier hit a very good point. Keeping your cool in the situation is a priority. Abso-freaking-lutely. Stay calm. And then Little Twisted, what about O2 for elderly? Unless you've got extra, I don't know what to tell you. Unless you've got some sort of O2 generator, it's gonna be difficult. Tammy asked,
you make little emergency O2 inhalers for people like climbing mountains and stuff.
Yeah, they make
those. They have O2 in them, but it's not going to last you long.
It's called Boost, BOOST. Tammy asked, where do we get the medical kits? I'm glad you asked, Tammy.
DarkAngelMedical.com.
Yeah, you can
has the best kits in the business.
Thank you, brother. Head over to my website. We've got them. They're HSA, FSA approved. You've got a health savings account or a flex spending account. You can use that money. Our kits are not cheap. I'm not going to tell you. Our kits are not cheap. They're not cheap because they're good. And I put good stuff in there. I put stuff in there that I've used, stuff that my buddies used. Our pouches are made here in the U.S., except for the Ouch Pouch Plus, but that's a different story. Otherwise, it'd be $60 a pouch. But we source everything direct from the manufacturer. Can we put that discount code up for folks while we're talking? Because it's already 48 after the hour.
Okay.
So, Tammy, we're going to put a link up here for you, and you can go over to darkangelmedical.com, and you can use the code cryptid20. That'll be 20% off your order. Also, if you order anything from me and you use it to save someone's life, I'll replace, and you let me know, I'll replace what you have used absolutely 100% free of charge. That's called a kit for life guarantee. Jay says, repack your kits or pack your, and we sell components. So if you want to make your own kit up, we sell components. So you know where everything is. Our kits are very easily laid out and easy to use. It's not complicated. So I just want to make sure that y'all have everything that you need and nothing you don't. ED Testament, they're the best that I've ever had. Thank you. I appreciate that. No,
I carried one for over 10 years as a cop, and I wouldn't trust my life to any other kit. And I don't say that lightly. And you could ask any nurse, security officer, or doctor that I worked with when I was the overnight security chief for the local hospital. I did two things when I made my rounds and got to know all the nurses on the floors and all the doctors and everybody that I worked with. I made sure all the other officers and all the nursing staff knew, one, where my Dark Angel kit was, where it was on my belt, because in law enforcement, odds are good the trauma kit you're carrying is going to get used on you. You're probably not going to wind up using it on someone else. It's there to save your life. And I want to make sure because I had nurses all over the place, but not every floor had trauma kits, because most of those floors were like cancer wards or heart patients. They didn't have trauma kits on hand because they don't deal with trauma. The ER had them, but nowhere else in the hospital really carried trauma kits.
Right.
I had a trauma kit on me at all times, and I wanted them to know where it was. The second thing I wanted them to know was where my backup gun was.
Right. No, and Karen and Edie, thank y'all very much. I appreciate that. Judy Davis just came up with the stuff. Those insulin bags are called Frio bags, as in cold, F-R-I-O. She had a hard time finding them. So, Gene Ellsworth, Doc, do you have any classes planned in North Alabama? I just had one in Huntsville. You can go over to darkangelmedical.com. We're going to be posting our 2025 schedule. I know for a fact we do have another one scheduled in Huntsville for next year. So,
well, I think we've covered the medical end of it.
Yo, dude, yeah, I'm sorry. I mean,
no. This is probably in any shit hit the fan situation. Yeah. Your first line of defense is your medical kit.
Yeah,
because like you said, even in a situation like that, when we've lost basic services, even a cut can be fatal if it gets infected.
100%, man.
So
sepsis is no joke.
Prioritize your medical kits. Those are a priority if things get bad. And I will agree. I understand living on a budget, but a $20 Walmart kit is not gonna have the same punch as a Dark Angel kit, because they're not made the same. The stuff you're gonna get in a Walmart kit may not even be good.
Doc is on fire, brother. This is my passion, man.
You're senior in class.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie's been in my class. He knows what's up. I mean, I get into it, but this is something that I'm very passionate about, to make sure people can take care of yourself. Are they labeled? Yes, they are. Our vacuum seal kits are all labeled up. Our trauma modules, our bleeding control kits are labeled up. The other kits are that you can open up and see everything, like the header kit, things like that are not labeled. Everything is clearly laid out so you can see it. So yeah, while doesn't have a content label, familiarize yourself with those contents by pulling out and look at it. Oh, that's what that is, and put it back in there. Yeah, now, Michael. Yeah, man, we just had a class there back in August, brother. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, but we're gonna be there. We're gonna be back in Huntsville again this coming year. So hope to see you there. I gotta go pee.
All right, Doc.
All right, I'll be right back. I'm sure everybody wanted to know that.
Did. I believe he said he's got to go pee.
I think he said he's got to go pee.
Greg, Doc's classes are always open enrollment. He does do classes that are just for departments, but it's usually if the department has him come in and do it. But if he's doing a class anywhere, anybody can sign up for it. Little Patty says TMI, Doc.
She has no idea, does she?
No, you don't see him off the air. But anyway, another thing you guys might want to bear in mind in a shit hit the fan situation is, is your family even together? Your kids could be at school. Yeah, your spouse could be at work. Or if your kids are old enough, they could be out at jobs. First thing you want to do is have a rendezvous point. If you get a message to everybody and said, we're getting the heck out of here, have a place where you're all going to rendezvous. That could be home, that could be such and such parking lot, but make sure everybody knows when things get bad, this is where they need to go. because that's where you're going to come to find them.
And it's also good to have more than one of those, just in case that place is underwater or no longer there or whatever. If you depend on one place to be your reunification place, and that place is underwater, then what's everybody going to do?
Right.
Yeah, it's like I said, plan. Don't do like me when you got, looking down the barrel of a week-long being out of power. Make sure you plan this stuff out. Make sure, if we can't get here, where else are we going to meet? That's,
There's a saying that applies to this situation, and I know I'm as guilty of it as Robbie is, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 1,000,001 things you can do that a lot of them don't even cost you anything at all, if much. You could go to a dollar store and and pick up a couple things for $20. Spend about $20-25 at the dollar store and keep your house warm and have light in your house. Like I said, there's 1,000,001 do-it-yourself little videos out there, how to make an oil candle, how to make a Crisco lantern, and we're making rocket stoves.
Or those little
my advice, and most of them are like 10-15 minute videos. Oh yeah, those little isopropyl alcohol stoves. Building your own rocket.
Drink cans apart.
No.
Sorry, guys.
Have a backup for your backup.
That's what we were just saying.
Yeah, and I was piggybacking on what you said, man. I heard what you're talking about, Robbie. Yeah, have a backup for your backup.
There is 2 is 1 and 1 is none. That's why I generally have 3 of just about anything. I mean, three sources of light, maybe even 4.
Yeah.
3 ways to defend myself, probably more depending on what I'm carrying. 3 ways to make a shelter. Backups are important. You don't necessarily have to have them all in the same bag, but you have to have them where they're close by.
Yeah, when I moved into this house, we had absolutely no alternative power source. We had no alternative heating source. We had a gas furnace. That's it. So my first order of business was putting a wood burning stove in the house. Then I got a generator, and and so forth and so on. So we've got plenty of stuff to have here. So we've got to make sure, your medical, your food, your water, like DA said, your shelter. Even if you can't bugging out, what kind of shelter do you have? Is it long-term? Is it short-term? Is it short-term enough to get you to a longer-term situation? You know what I mean? Like when The Walking Dead, when they moved into the prison, but that's something to think about, and these are things we have to think about. You got to live in, and it's not a paranoid state of mind, but like my buddy John says, you got to live in a heightened state of awareness.
Well, situational awareness will save your life.
Amen.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's not me being paranoid. That's just me being aware of my surroundings.
Oh, and like DA was talking about, your ways to defend yourself. Robbie, are you carrying a knife right now?
Yep.
DA, are you carrying a knife right now?
More than one, but yeah.
Yeah, I've got one too. And so we've got to think about that. And those of you who like your sharp, stabby stuff, make sure it's sharp. Make sure it's sharp, y'all.
It's sharp.
Okay.
It's a scallywag. Of course it's sharp.
Make sure it's sharp. It's got to be sharp. If it's not sharp, then you're more liable to hurt yourself. I always wondered why my dad was, every time he'd start doing some woodwork, he'd hit his chisel on the whetstone or whatever. And he'd say a dull chisel is more dangerous than a sharp chisel. And
folks, if you don't have a way to defend yourself or your bug out position or your home, you're what Doc refers to as organic supply points. Because in a bad situation, bad situations always bring out the worst and the best in people. Some people will be out there trying to help. Other people will be looking to see what you've got to steal.
Okay. So guys, for you two law enforcement officers, I'm gonna give Judy Davis this answer. So Judy Davis says, "Is it legal?" Or ask, "Is it legal to carry knives?" Check your state and local laws.
Depends on your state.
Is that what y'all would say?
It depends on where you live and what the local laws are. Some states will say you can carry one, but the blade's got to be less than 3 inches. Missouri, if you want to carry a freaking 12-inch bladed buck knife on your belt, they don't give a damn.
Yeah, most of that stuff is geared towards fixed blade, pocket knife.
Right.
You know, usually when you talk about the blade length on a pocket knife, that goes to back in the days when you could still carry a pocket knife in school.
Right.
Which we all know you can't do that now, and it had to be under a certain length. But most of the concealed weapons laws, the way they used to be, it was for fixed blade knives.
And Greg Howell says, honestly, sharpening knives is a lost art. I learned how to sharpen knives from my granddad and my dad, and I think it's a generational thing. So if you don't know how to sharpen a knife, there's some good ways to learn. There's some good videos.
There's a lot of good videos on it, but I have a big whetstone that I use. But if you just want to put a quick edge on a knife, go to budk.com. I know Bud K sells cheap ass knives. Don't be the Bud K commando walking around with a Bud K sword thinking you're going to take on the world. But because their blades are cheap and they're not high quality and they're just, never mind. I won't talk about their blades anymore. But they sell little sharpening kits, and mine's buried here on my desk somewhere. The other one's in the kitchen because I grab it. I use it to put run the kitchen knives on them once in a while. But those little sharpening kits, they have a steel side and a ceramic side, and you can put a hell of an edge on a knife with one of those in just a few seconds.
You absolutely can. And Antonio has a good question for you two, since y'all are law enforcement.
Just Google it. Google, like if you live in Missouri, Google Missouri state knife laws. And our odds are really good. You're going to find 20 different articles that'll tell you what the laws in your area are.
And
sorry, folks.
There are almost as many different little knife sharpener type things as there are knives. I probably got 20 or 30 different types of knife sharpeners. I've got the little fold up diamond stones. I've got everything from stuff like that all the way up to the thing you mount on the bench, and it's got the angle pitch on it. And I mean, but the point that Doc's making is get something.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything other than a leather belt that you can tie on the end of a door and strap your knife that way, that's what if you've got a real leather belt.
Absolutely.
But that's like Doc's talking about. That's a generational thing that a lot of people don't realize that and don't know that.
And
Cajun Dog says in a bad situation, laws go out the window. That's a fact. Yeah. And that's something to remember because that applies to everybody.
Amen. And keep it portable too. That's another thing I can say. And like Robbie is talking about, and DA is talking about, those little cheap little sharpeners. Not only are they cheap, they're small, which means
you clip it to a pack strap.
Right. They're portable, y'all. So make sure I didn't know this till I went to survival school. You could even use like really rough grain cardboard to strap your knife with.
I used to have a cardboard wheel on my grinder, and I sharpened my knives with that cardboard wheel.
I had no
idea. Those things get sharp.
Yeah.
You can also do that with plywood. You can get the
I'll be damned
plywood, cut your wheel out, put it on your grinder. Now this is obviously not portable like you're talking about, Doc, but you can make a wheel out of plywood and strap your knife with that too.
This is a good tip for those of you who may not necessarily be shit hits the fan, but if you use a razor to shave with, and it's getting dull and you don't have another one, if you're wearing blue jeans, take that thing and run it back and forth a few times on your blue jeans, and you'll get 4 or 5 more shaves out of that thing.
Yep.
All good things to know. Greg House, top of a car window where they've radiused it off, it will definitely sharpen a knife. Yeah, 100%. So it's these little things. We're trying to make this show as educational as possible because it's these little things. Items to have with you, cordage, tape, things like that. So parachute cord. It's called
100 yards of 550 cord rolled up and stuck in a pack. Doesn't weigh much.
No, and it doesn't weigh much, and just multi-use. I mean, you could braid it together and literally use it as a rappelling line.
You can also use it for building shelters. You can use it for making snares. There's a million and one uses for 550 cord.
Fishing line, man. We got as far as like your so cordage, duct tape. You know,
I keep a roll of black Gorilla tape in my bag.
Yeah, and you can take the like a roll of Gorilla tape like this and roll it around like a one of those hotel room key cards that you don't ever turn in, and you can get several feet around that or around a lighter, and that'll give you some good adhesive. You know, duct tape and 550 cord, man. It just you can't go wrong without it.
Robin races extra shoe and boot laces. Yeah, 550 cord. I've used that for boot laces many times.
I've got a pair of jungle boots from back in the day when I was stationed at Fort Bragg that still got 550 cord in there.
I got a pair of Danner mountain boots that still have 550 cord laces.
What's the first thing you do, DA, when you get a new pair of boots?
I change out the laces because the laces that come with them suck.
No, they do.
Take out them cheap laces and put 550 cord in them.
Yep, absolutely, man. Lots of good pointers out there. So we talked about nutrition a little bit along with the medical stuff, your food stuff. Let's talk about electrolytes for a second. Let's talk about some electrolytes. Electrolytes, yeah, I mean, your muscles work off of electrolytes. You know what I mean? Your heart is a muscle. So you've got to have a good electrolyte balance. There's a lot of good electrolyte supplements out there right now. There's Drip Drop. There's Liquid IV. There's Element. Element is LMNT. Fantastic electrolyte.
You know what I keep on hand? I know probably not the best thing, but I keep the big like cardboard cylinders. I have at least 2 of those in the cabinet at any given time of powdered Gatorade.
Yeah. Gatorade, Pedialyte, any of this stuff, because if you're going to be exerting yourself like Robbie's been doing with the cleanup and everything like that in a storm situation, you're going to need not only have water, but you need to have electrolytes as well, because you're sweating all that stuff off, and that's the last thing you need is your muscles to seize up, and you go into heat exhaustion. So just be very, very good with that stuff.
I've had heat, not full on heat stroke, but I've had heat exhaustion.
I have had heat exhaustion.
It is no bueno.
No,
I tell you, when I lived down in New Mexico, they used to. My parents used to just preach constantly. If you're going to be outside, you get water. Just drink water. If you don't, because if you start feeling thirsty out there in that desert heat, it's too late.
You're done. Yeah, you're done. You're behind the 8 ball. and you know, like Robbie is in a humid environment, and so in a humid environment, you're going to get a heat injury way quicker than you will in like a 40% humidity environment, because the sweat doesn't come off of us because we're an evaporative cooler, and so it just sticks there. But like where DA grew up in Clayton, and I'm out here in Colorado, it's like 12% humidity, 6% humidity. It pulls
and
it out.
Altitude.
Yeah, and you don't even know you're sweating because it's already evaporated so fast. And so each of those, man, you gotta make sure you constantly are hydrating.
Greg House mentioned keeping a compass. I have a Lensatic compass that I keep mounted to my pack strap, my go bag strap. But I'll tell you, I collect these little multi-tools, and I got a really great one from Craig Burhart from Scallywag. It's called the Sporky Spork. It's a little multi-tool. It's a spork. I got this today in the mail from him. I've been wanting one for over a year. They're out of stock, and he sent me one as soon as they got them in. It's a neat little multi-tool, and it's an eating tool. But there's another little emergency tool that I keep. This one stays on my pack, but I took it off for this show. Number one is my faithful P38 can opener.
Dude.
It cost me like 59 cents when I bought it at the PX years ago, but that thing is still on my pack to this day. I mean, other than I took it off to show you all. But there's another little tool that I have come to discover is worth its freaking weight in gold. And that little fella right below me is the one that sent it to me. Dark Angel has these little, it's got a compass in it. It's got a magnifying glass in it.
We used to.
You don't have them?
Yo, you can get them from Sun Company. You can get them from Sun Company.
It's got a thermostat in it, a temperature gauge, and then on the back it's got,
Wind chill
factors. But this thing is so damn handy. I actually started a fire in the backyard with this just to see if I could do it. Got a great little magnifying glass on it. The compass ain't it's not a match for Lensatic compass, but if it's this or nothing, yeah. But I keep this on my strap, and it's actually hooked right next to a set of Ranger beads.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Ranger beads are another good thing that people don't think about. It's a good.
But not everybody knows how to use Ranger beads.
Yeah. And that's where orientation.
But they might not know how to use Ranger beads, but they need to have something to keep. If it's nothing but a little notebook and a pen to mark down every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, whatever. Yeah. Ranger beads just reminded me. Yeah, there's people out there know how. There's people that don't know. You need to have something to keep up if you're walking and just walking.
And Robbie hits on something, y'all. And if y'all don't know how to use Ranger beads, or you don't know anything about orienteering or map reading or anything like that, there's a wealth of great videos out there that will show y'all about this stuff. And it is absolutely fantastic.
Someone asked what the Ranger. Jay Freiberg says define Ranger beads. Ranger beads are a couple of pieces, and you can make them yourself. A couple of pieces of 550 cord braided together, tied together at the top. You can hook it to a D ring. You can clip it to your pack, but they got little beads on them that you can slide up and down the cord. A little knot at the end of the cord to keep them from sliding off. And for every so many paces, you just pull one bead down. And
every 10 paces.
Every 10 paces, yeah. You pull a bead down, and you track that with your map, and you know exactly how far you've traveled. Not necessarily important if you're just trying to get out of an area, but very important if you're going to have to retrace your steps.
Yeah. We call it. Ranger beads are a pace cord. It's right. Also known as a pace cord. Is another good name for it. So it's a good tool to have. We used to hang them on our load bearing equipment right here, and we'd hit every 10 paces. We'd hit a freaking cord or hit a bead.
One of my instructors at the police academy was a Ranger, and his name is Kevin. His name is Kevin Holly. Just an awesome dude. I've known him for a hell of a long time. And when I graduated from the academy, he gave me a set of Ranger beads that he made for me. And he said, I'm going to give you these, and I want you to take a little wisdom with it. And I said, what's that? He goes, you know how to use these, don't you? And I said, yeah, I'm familiar. I know how to do land nav and everything. He's like, okay, well, these are for if you make a mistake or you're in the wrong place, you can backtrack and start over. I said, yeah. He said, it's the same with your law enforcement career. He said, if you make a mistake, you can backtrack and you can start over. He said it's a metaphor for life. He just keep these beads on you, and they've been on my pack ever since.
I like that.
Yep.
Mark Napier says you can get a topo map book of your state on Amazon. I highly recommend you have topo maps of your area. Topo stands for topographical. Those maps not only mark terrain features, but roads, settlements, rivers, creeks, which are all sources of water there in an emergency. So a good topographical map and the knowledge of how to use it is very important if you're going to be bugging out.
Even down to like radio antennas, transmission towers, and things like that. And you can use those as a landmark where you are to triangulate your position to get your correct location to where you are. Also, make sure that the compass that you have, if you have a Lensatic compass, which is probably the most accurate one out there, a Lensatic style compass, make sure that it's on the side. It'll usually have like a scale for measuring. Make sure that it corresponds to the grid reference system. That's called the GRS, the grid reference system that your topographical map has. There's like the military grid reference system, MGRS. There's the UTM grid system. So make sure that your compass has to, it's a one to whatever grid reference system. So make sure it corresponds. That's all.
Right.
Just saying.
Folks, there's 1,000,001 things you can put in a bug out bag. But the basics that you have to cover is, food, water, and air. In a situation where you might have chemical agents in the air, and I'm not going to go into that in great detail, but a gas mask would probably be key. But odds are really good that unless you're going to have a gas main or something blow in your area, you're probably not going to have to deal with that. But it is good. If you've got access to something like that, it's good to plan around it. But go on Amazon or go to Walmart and look for space blankets. You can buy a 4 or 5 pack of those space blankets, and they weigh nothing. And you can get a 4 or 5 pack for just a few bucks, and throw those in your pack. And like I said, they weigh nothing, and you can stay warm. You can keep, if you've got 5 members of your family and you've got 5 space blankets, you can keep everybody warm in a bad situation if you're outdoors or have no power.
Yeah, and Kevin just hit it. The pack is getting heavy fast. That is 100%, because we had a saying in the military: ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain.
I've said that many times.
So it's easy when you got this 20-liter pack to sit there, or 30-liter pack, and you're like,
how much can I stuff in this thing?
I can put one more thing in here, So, and then when you need it, you're like, oh my God, this is way too much weight. So yeah,
it's like in basic training when they show you the loadout. All right, you need to get all of that in that Alice pack and get it on your back. Right. You're like, Jesus Christ, do I really need all of this?
We called it the big green tick. The big green tick, baby.
The best visualization of that, if you watch Band of Brothers, when Toy's out there talking about his entire loadout, and he names all that stuff, and they walk around, he's like, and that's without even this leg bag and all this other stuff that is sprung on me. There was so much stuff in there that they put in there, and most of them ended up losing that stuff anyway, and had to end up surviving.
Just dump it because of the weight.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's just it. You don't think, oh, that's just 4 ounces, or that's just 2 ounces, whatever. That crap adds up, folks.
Jay, fishing is something that you can rely on.
Absolutely.
Unless the water source is contaminated, in which case I'd be pretty seriously concerned about eating the fish in the area. But if it's just like a local lake or a local river that you've gotten out of the area and gone to, they're inexpensive little fishing kits that come in a little plastic box about yay big. That it's got a little bit of fishing line. It's got a few hooks. You can dig for worms. It's got a couple bobbers in it. You can buy an emergency fishing kit for $5 or $6, and that fits like right into your cargo pocket or into a pack pocket. And I've got one of those as well. You can actually catch quite a bit of fish with one of those little kits.
And Dr. 45 120 Sharks. Yeah, we were talking about shelter early on in the program, and DA was talking about you can get if you're having to bug out, if you're having to leave your own shelter, like the folks in, the Carolinas have, unfortunately, find a shelter that you can carry, and find a shelter that's going to be big enough for the group of people that you're in. Even if everybody has their own, even if they have their own individual shelter, man.
That's my whoopee.
I was like, what the hell was that?
It's my whoopee, man.
I thought you getting attacked by something.
No, that's my whoopee.
As you done got him, Doc.
Yeah. As far as your orientation, let's say you don't have a compass, but it's a sunny day. What you can do is get in an area where there's sun, and you can drive a stick in the ground. Like, let's say you drive like let's say a 2 to 3 foot stick in the ground, tap, 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 and wait about what you think is about, and put a rock where that shadow is on that stick, and then wait about 15 minutes and put where that shadow is again, and put another rock and draw a line between those two. And that's typically going to be your east-west line. And like somebody had said earlier, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. So just look where the sun is going, and then you can make your north-south line and kind of give yourself a rough estimation of defensification, of strategery, and get yourself oriented to your proper location.
ED Testament says, "What's a whoopee? I have a poncho liner." Well, you jarheads might have a poncho liner, but us Army guys have a whoopee.
I got a whoopee.
Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere without that thing.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I love my freaking whoopies, man. It's amazing.
Cajun Dog, you're right. It's technically a poncho liner for cold weather, but I have slept many a night quite comfortably under a whoopee.
Well, and I'll say this, man. So get the shelter. If you've got literally a military issue poncho liner, you've got a sleep system right there.
Yes, you do.
It may not be the most comfortable sleep you've had, but it'll protect you from the elements to some extent. Just saying.
And yeah, you can go on any military surplus website and pick them up dirt cheap.
Yeah, I slept on drop zones many a night, wrapped up in my poncho and poncho liner, and was quite comfy.
Yep.
Just saying.
I mean,
Cole Elsis was waiting for the Marines to enter the convo with the whoopee and poncho liner debate. He was too busy eating crayons. He had to wait till he was done chewing to talk.
Oh, ED Testament has a good example, a good point here for survival. Military ponchos are not just a good shelter. The little part actually collects water.
Yes.
Excellent
There's
point.
1,001 uses for a hood for a poncho.
Excellent.
You can make a tent out of it. You can make a water collection system for rain. There's
Right.
a lot of uses for a poncho.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you got parachute cord, if you made a shelter out of your poncho liner or a shelter half or something like that, you can use if you put a stick in the middle on a knot of your cordage, and it's raining, and put a bottle underneath that stick, and you'll create a drip line, and you can collect rainwater into some sort of container.
run it straight down into your bottle or your canteen or whatever.
More than just the hat rack. And if you've got a like a Camelback system, you can also get an inline water filtration system, like DA's talking about the Life Straw. You can get an inline water filtration system for that as well. So you can fill your bag up with crap water and then drink good water.
Having the ability to filter water is game changing. Whether you're bugging in or bugging out.
That's something I meant to say when you were talking about boiling water earlier, DA. And Doc, you'll echo this too. Boiling water may kill all the bacteria, but it doesn't remove other things. You still have to strain it.
You still got to filter it out. And also, let's talk about filtration versus purification. So we got to make sure we get all the Cryptosporidia, Giardia, Protozoa, viruses out of this water. That's what true purification comes from. So look at your MicroPure tabs, look at your Life Straws, all this stuff. Look at what it filters down to and see what it removes. So we want to get all the crap out of there. Otherwise, you're going to be having a backdoor trot, son. That's all I got to say. And then
Life Straw is supposed to filter out even some radioactive components.
Yeah.
I think it's like 0.999 microns, DA.
Yeah.
I think
99.999 micron. Yeah. And
Brock was saying if you can take a Life Straw and stick that sucker straight in the water and drink out of it, but take a rubber band and a coffee filter and put it over the end of it, and that'll keep the particulates out of it.
Yeah, because Edie said something about that, and I said something about that on the last show. Because if you got a pre-filter on your purifier, like DA just said, throw a coffee filter over that, rubber band it in place. That's what a survival school instructor taught me that years ago, and I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. He said that way you don't clog your pre-filter up.
And if you've got a 5-gallon bucket, some sand, rocks, and charcoal, you can make your own filter.
And there's plenty of tutorial videos out there on how to do that.
There's 1,000,001 of them,
and it works. And there's even freestanding ones like the Berkey filter that you can get. Have y'all heard of those, DA, Robbie? The Berkey filters? The Berkey filters are really big filters. So any of this stuff, man. The last thing y'all want to do, man, is get sick.
Right.
You know? Because it's already a bad situation. Don't make your situation go from bad to worse. Just like if you're cooking food in pans and stuff, I mean, you can stick a can, if you got canned goods, you can stick that sucker all over an open flame and cook it right there or warm it up. If you're having to cook your food in a pan, for the love of good, all things good and holy, please wash it out and keep it clean, because that way you don't get any kind of foodborne illness.
Right. And, another good thing to have on hand, and I've mentioned this before, and I will do so again. I wish I'd have grabbed it before I put my green screen up. It's called the SAS Survival Guide, and it comes in a shelf version and a pocket version. I have both. I recommend getting both. The pocket version is small enough to go right into a large shirt pocket or a cargo pocket, and it is loaded. I mean, loaded with vital information like what plants are edible, how to build snares, how to build shelters. I mean, what plants are medicinal. I mean, there's just a ton of information in that little book, and it's not expensive. And I highly recommend if you're going to make a bug out bag, that you throw one of them in it.
Always good to have, man. Always good to have.
Roxanne says, DA, what do you think of the Sawyer straw system? I'm not as familiar with it as I am with Life Straw, but I swear by Life Straws. I've never used a Sawyer. I'm sure it's fine, but I swear by Life Straws because, hell, you can pick up 2 of them for $40, and they're good for like 10,000 gallons of water.
Yeah, and also they're about to have Amazon days on the 8th and 9th of October, and so they'll probably be offering some really good deals on them then too.
Yeah. Speaking of October, again, I'm not going to get political, folks, but this is going to affect all of us, and you want to bear this in mind. The dock workers unions on the East Coast and the coast along the Gulf are going on strike starting on October 1st, and that is going to shut down 50 to 70% of U.S. imports.
Yeah. I went to the grocery today. Just something to think about.
Yeah. There's a good time to stock up on some stuff.
Yeah.
You bottled water, your essentials, get you some extra toilet paper, because things are going to get real sketchy for a month or two until they settle that strike.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, not pointing any political fingers. This is just a fact of life. This is going to happen.
Yeah, this is apolitical, man. This is absolutely apolitical. Just, again, be prepared and make sure you have plenty of stuff. Like I said, like the DA is just saying, toilet paper, paper towels, garbage bags, that kind of stuff. Basic sanitation stuff. Staples. Yeah, Cajun dog. For all the city people, make friends with country and rednecks.
That's right.
You ain't wrong, son. You ain't wrong. Cajun dog. You might know some of my people down in Ponchatoula and Hammond, man. Who knows?
Every time you say Hammond, I think of swamp people. Meanwhile, in Hammond, Jordan, Elizabeth,
Slidell.
Meanwhile, in Houma,
got family in Slidell.
I got family in Slidell. That's where my family's from. Slidell.
That's right.
Josh Dalton says, yeah, DA oil imports will be affected too. Yes, they will. Watch for gas to go through the freaking roof.
Yeah.
But if you got a container, throw some gas in it. If your car's on empty, fill it.
Yeah. Fill your gas cans up, folks. Fill your vehicles up. Yeah, and Greg House.
You're right. Ramen noodles, those are a godsend, and it don't take much to spice them up.
Ramen noodles, Spam, beans, and rice. Man, you can live off that.
I'd rather just go shoot a squirrel than eat Spam. I hate Spam.
I love Spam, dude.
Used to fry that and make sandwiches out of it. I started hating that shit as a kid, and I still to this day.
I love. You know what Spam stands for, right?
What?
Stuff posing as meat.
I always thought it stood for squirrels, pigeons, and mice.
Hey, whatever.
Take a pick.
I'll eat
it. At least it smells better than deviled ham.
It tastes as bad as Spam, though.
Yeah.
At least it smells better than deviled ham. I mean, deviled ham smells like catfish bait.
I like all of it. potted meat, deviled ham, Vienna sausage. I'll eat all of it, man.
Doc, you like trick meat?
Dude, bologna. All bologna is a hot dog pancake. So I'll eat that too.
Hot dog pancake.
You ain't gonna scare me. I grew up. I eat squirrels, rabbits, whatever. I'll eat any of it.
I'll eat me some bologna.
If you're, here's the thing, man. If you're hungry, and it'll make you poop, then I'm down for it. You know what I mean? So, in a situation like that, we gotta make sure that we have enough. A caloric intake is huge. Greg Howes, absolutely. Canned tuna and sardines. I love me some sardines on some saltine crackers, a little bit of Texas Pete. Really nice, Clark. So,
I've been looking at like old Depression era recipes, like shit on a shingle and Hoover stew.
Absolutely.
You can just easily Google those. Google search shit on a shingle or Hoover soup or any just Depression era recipes and how to make your food dollar really stretch.
Yeah, shelf stable items. I cannot emphasize that enough, folks. Man, shelf stable items. And people are, oh, it's got a lot of sodium in it. Who gives a fat rat's butt, man? Drink more water then.
Right.
So you gotta have your caloric intake, and like he said, protein, your sardines, your tuna, canned chicken, stuff like that, all your canned meats. Yeah, they got some sodium in it, but dude, they got some good proteins, and that's going to help you. That's going to keep you strong. Protein helps your muscles repair, helps your tissue repair if you get an injury, and it keeps you strong.
Yeah, and in a bad situation like that, when we're facing shortages, look at all of these old timey, like back from the Great Depression, on how they would make a buck stretch, and you can do it too. It might make you have to tighten up your belt a notch or two.
Yeah,
but tightening up a belt a notch or two is better than being 6 feet under.
Right. Right. It's a situation where it may not be great, but it'll be palatable. And Greg Howes, man, yeah, dude, you're coming up with some great stuff. A few tablespoons of peanut butter will go a long way. And I'll go one on top of that. Powdered peanut butter. Get you some powdered peanut butter that's shelf stable. It won't go rancid. And you just mix it with some water, and you got some good stuff.
Steve says, how many spare cans of dip have you got stashed? I don't have any. I haven't chewed in years. I do miss it once in a while.
I've got quite a few, Steve.
Although if I did pick up the habit again, I'd probably do what Doc does and do the coffee grinds.
Oh yeah, those are good. You got something.
Oliva Wolf says, does anyone know the name of the OD green bag that the military uses that Doc can fit in? The big one you slung over your shoulder? That was just a general duffel bag. I don't know if it's got an actual name, but we just called them duffel bags. Robert Clymer says they get extra coffee too. And this is a great time to learn. Oh, nice. This is a great time to learn how to use a French press, because if you can heat water, you don't need electricity to make the coffee. You don't need a coffee pot or to boil it out. Like I've got a cowboy coffee pot that I take camping, and yep. I made coffee 1,000,000 times in the backyard. But if I can just heat up a little bit of water, that French press makes a hell of a cup of coffee. And only energy it takes is for me pushing the plunger down once it's brewed.
Right. And this right here, this is this powdered peanut butter I'm talking about. This can makes 72 servings of peanut butter once you rehydrate it. So something to think about.
Cajun Dog says, the vegan down the road, would that be protein? That's a free-range human. Steve Patton says, percolator. I've got a percolator. I love my percolator, but when I tried that French press, dude. Powdered milk. Yeah, powdered milk is a lot cheaper than regular milk, and it lasts for a very long time. And there's 1,000,001. Again, there's 1,000,001 of these little survival do-it-yourself videos where it'll show you how to easily can meat to make it last, how to can eggs. Pioneers didn't have refrigeration units, but they could store eggs for months at a time. There are ways where you can do this, and it's not that difficult, where you can pressure can all the meat in your freezer. You can pressure can eggs to keep them fresh for a much longer amount of time. Remember, folks, as much as we might think it's bleak without the internet, without our cell phones, without all of that, people existed for thousands of years before any of that was invented. And if they can do it, we can do it. We've just forgotten how. Sandra Johnson says, I keep salt and meat and sugar for meat curing. Also, a needle on a leaf and water will point north. Those are good tips. Let's see, what else should we cover? We've talked at length on numerous shows on choices of pew pews, but in a true shit hit the fan situation, one of the most valuable weapons you could have is just a simple 22 rifle.
Yep, I agree.
It's not heavy. The ammo's not heavy, and you can carry a shitload of it, and you can hunt plenty of animal with a 22 to keep your belly full.
And
and
get those was it Savage that makes them dot that they all fit in the everything fits in the stock and
no, that's
fit in the backpack.
No, that's Henry does that. That's called
Henry,
the AR-7 survival rifle.
Yeah, AR-7. And I mean, Ruger makes one that'll fit in a little tiny little pack. 1022. That is freaking fantastic.
Yep.
I don't have a collapsible one, but I've got a 22 long rifle and a pistol. So, in worst case scenario, those do work quite well.
Yeah, and ammo's cheap. Yeah. Holly just said something that I'm looking at doing this next year is called water glassing eggs. It'll keep your egg. It's like a lime solution. It'll keep your eggs, 2 to 3 years, man. Lil Patty and Jay Freiberg had the same thing. Jay, if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, man, I'm sorry. Decks of cards, board games, books, books. I mean, DA's got a lot of books. Y'all buy all his series of books to re-enjoy whenever things happen. You know what I mean? Music.
One thing about having a physical book is when the power goes down, you can still read it.
Yeah, and music. If you're a music lover, music lover. I see.
I got one for each of you, Mr.
Is that old Trey? No, it's a nocturne. Frederick freaking Chopin. Sorry. Music. If you've got a CD player or something like that, battery powered, rechargeable, whatever. I do that. I mean, things to keep your sanity. Those things are great to have, along with the pew pews. Like DA said, a good 22. Ammo's plentiful. Ammo's cheap. Get it. Maintenance. Make sure you have enough stuff for maintenance to make sure that you can keep whatever your chosen pew pew is. Make sure that it continues to pew when you need it to pew. So I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure you have all of your preventive, your what we used to call in the military, DA and Rob, y'all know, PMCS, preventive maintenance checks and services. Make sure you have all your stuff there. Yep. Make sure you check it. Make sure it's good to go. And Greg's said it. Educate yourself. You honestly, people say, "Oh, you're a prepper," and I'm like, well, I mean. In that sense, maybe so, but I've been preparing for years and years. Hand tools, you know what I mean? I'm jumping all over the map, but freaking hand tools, that you got to have, hammers and hand saws and nails and screws and your proper equipment to utilize them with, shovels, pickaxes, mattocks, mauls, wedges. I mean, god dang, man, I could go on and on. So.
You can make a lot of firewood with just a good limb saw.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got one hanging on a nail on my back porch.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
You could go to Harbor Freight and you could buy 5 or 6 hand saws and put them in different places, just so you have. I mean, granted, they're probably not the highest quality, but just to have something like if you were in a situation and you needed, like you got stuck in a snowstorm out on the side of the road, and you got a handsaw at the back of your truck that you put in there that you bought from Harbor Freight, would you rather have that or nothing? So I mean, there's things you can do to kind of limit, because you can go to Lowe's and spend what, $40-$50 on a saw, or you can go to Harbor Freight and spend $10-$15 on one, just so you have something if you need it.
What's the name of those damn saws? What is it, Robbie? Is it called a silky saw? Have you heard of those? Those little Japanese saws. It cuts on the pull. It cuts on the pull.
Japanese pull saw is what it's called.
Yeah. And so those, and something else at Home Depot, you get you a bunch of those damn Homer buckets and the sealed lids for them. I mean, you can make a cheap shower with those things, man. Just drill a couple of holes in there, and you can go buy those packs of shims that they sell, like shimming doors and stuff up, but you can split those up to make kindling out of them. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm big on hygiene right now, but I'm like, the bucket for a shower, I've done that. Solar showers. It's like a little polyvinyl bag, a few gallons, you dump water in it, hang it up, it's black, it gets hot in the sun, and you just wash your old nasty self off with it.
Jay Freiberg says, what about caching things outside your property, like in the wilderness? That's great if you've got a place that you're going to be bugging out to, and it's going to be secure. Now, the last thing I want to do is, make a big supply drop for somebody else.
Yeah, because
that's true.
Have you guys seen those ring-powered chainsaws? They connect to a couple of rings you wrap around your fingers, and you can put it on the.
Oh yeah, I've got one. It's like in a little screw top can.
Yeah,
it's way better than those old wire saws. Those things sucked.
Yeah, those wire saws are terrible.
Yeah.
You're gonna cut a lot faster with one of those little hand-powered chainsaws than you will with one of those freaking wire saws.
Those things are pretty solid, and you can run. They got little rings on them. You can run a stick through each of those rings and have a good solid pull on there to give you more power.
A good hatchet. A good hatchet is worth its weight in gold.
Yes. Yep. If you want to spend some money on one, I mean, you can get an S-Twing at Home Depot or Lowe's, whatever. Those are super cheap. Good quality. I've had one for over 30 years. But if you want to get you a Bruxfors, I think they're made in Denmark or Sweden. I mean, them Norwegian, the Norseman has been making some good hacking stuff for a long time. Just saying.
And in a really bad situation, it's not a bad idea to have a few bottles of some sort of whiskey or alcohol on hand. Well, one, it's good. It's always good to have a glass of it. But there's a lot of reasons you can use that. It can be used as a fire starter. It can be used as an antiseptic, or in a situation where you come across somebody else, it can also be used to barter.
Absolutely, man. Antonio Vasquez, how do you clean your hands off? Good old soap and water, man. And I'm not trying to be a smartass when I say that. Just good old soap and water. I mean, this is part of the hygiene stuff, your toilet paper and things like that. Have a ample supply of just plain old, go to the freaking Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, Dollar General, whatever, and load up on good old Dove soap. You don't need anything fancy. Just good old freaking Dove soap, man. That's good stuff.
Kevin Bode says a bounty will cut trees. Yeah, but that's really not what it's designed for. You're probably going to really booger your edge up on that bounty. If you want to cut trees for something from Scallywag, get the bushwhacker. Get the machete.
Yeah.
Jake Light with a trenching shovel. Yeah,
absolutely.
I've got one of those over there.
Good old military issue E-tool. What they call the E-tool is the entrenching tool. Those are freaking I still got my originally issued one from like 1990 Good Lord. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry.
We are already rapidly approaching the
Yes, we
the
are.
2 hour mark. Sorry.
I mean, this has been a great
crap
show.
out of me.
It's been a great show. We've had a lot of good information coming out with folks. So, man, I mean, you know, fire starting equipment, things like that. God, man, we could do a whole show just on fire starting.
Oh,
Dear
and folks, if you're not an experienced camper, do not pitch your tent right next to water.
Oh God, no.
You want to be above it as much as you can, because if it rains during the night or it's been raining upriver, you could get wiped out in the middle of the night by a flash flood. Do not put your tent right on the edge of water.
Yeah, uphill, man, uphill as much as you can.
More than one reason don't camp next to the water source, because like what DA was saying, you know.
Thank you, KC. Thank you for the super chat, man.
If you're out in the woods and you camp near a water source, what else goes to the water source?
Everything,
including predators.
Yeah. Just and take care of yourself. You know, and from another standpoint, I said this on the last show we did. Your clothing can make the difference in life or death. Make sure you have the proper clothing for the proper environment. Make sure that if it's hot, hot outside, you're not going to be sweating. If you're sweating a lot, wear some sort of wicking underlayer. Even if it's cold outside, you're still going to be exerting yourself and sweating, and cold and wet will freaking kill you. So make sure you have some sort of wicking underlayer there, because that's way better. Some sort of polypropylene or whatever performance material versus cotton. Cotton undergarments will freaking kill you. If you want to get down to it, get you some wool. Good old merino wool, wool clothing, because even if wool gets wet, it still insulates. So just something to think about.
and don't try to go hiking out of an area in a pair of Crocs. Get yourself some good footwear. If you don't already have a pair of boots, get a set. I've got several sets of boots that I've collected over the years, that any one of which I would be perfectly fine with to go unassing an area. And remember what's in your area too. If you've got a lot of snakes in your area, make sure you've got a boot that's high enough that gives you some protection.
Yeah. If you're in snake country, man, snake chaps are fairly lightweight and will go over your existing footwear. And you can even get ones that have like a top cover that protects over the top of the foot, because most people that get bitten or get bitten between from the knees down or from the elbows down, whether they're stepping over or reaching in. KC Callaway, wool is the itchiest stuff ever made. Honestly, KC, merino wool, it's expensive, but merino wool, I've got merino wool underwear, long johns, that is absolutely not itchy at all.
My long johns are old Army Poly Pros.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the old Army wool socks. Yeah, those things sucked. But I wear all my socks now are merino wool, and my long johns are all merino wool, and they are absolutely amazing, and it's not itchy scratchy like the old Army wool blankets. I got some of the old wool blankets. Those suckers, you could sharpen a knife on those, I believe.
Those were brutal.
Yeah.
Greg House says learn how to build a covert fire. And if you're not sure what that is, folks, light travels a long distance at night, and a flickering fire can be seen for a very long distance.
Yep.
So if you're gonna pitch a camp and you're wanting to stay unobserved, one, keep the fire small, but two, take your e-tool or whatever you've got and dig down probably about a foot and then put rocks up around the edge of that fire pit and build your fire small in that. That will keep the light from being seen, because what they're seeing is the direct light. The light that's going up, they're probably never even going to see that. But as long as you've got something between the edge of your fire and the horizon, you're going to be able to obscure that fire.
Yeah, there's one called it's called a Dakota fire hole, where you basically have you want to dig one hole that's going to have your fire in about a foot deep, and you're going to have another hole that's going to be like your air feed hole, and you want to build that to where you dig that down at an angle towards your other hole, and you create an opening there, and so the air that's you do it into the wind, so that the air's coming into that vent hole, feeding that fire a constant supply of oxygen, and it's down in the ground, and that'll give you a nice, it's not smokeless, but it's almost like DA said, when your light discipline is a big thing, is that, yeah, 443 Big Vic said the same thing. Dakota fire hole, Dakota pit. Yeah. Look it up. Google it. Do your Google food.
Yeah. You consult the Googles.
Yeah. Consult the Oracle. Googles. We're going to consult the Oracle, AKA Google.
Also, these little fairly cheap military surplus flashlights, they've got colored lenses in the base of them. I mean, you got red, yellow, and green. Well, the chroma key is getting rid of the green one, but it's got multiple colors of these lenses that you could put over the bezel, and make it very difficult for them to see your flashlight at distance, and still give you enough light to move by.
See.
Antonio Vasquez says, wild pigs, are they safe to eat? Yes. You just have to make sure you're cooking it thoroughly, because wild pigs are more likely to give you trichinosis than tame pigs. Same with bears. If you shoot a bear, if you're going to plan on eating a bear, bear meat will give you trichinosis. Cook it well.
Also, if you're going to be eating squirrels and rabbits, it's usually safer to eat them after the first 2 frosts, because of the botfly larvae. They called them wolves where I was growing up. You got the wolves in them. And I was like, what the hell is a wolf? Yeah, it's a botfly larva. But if you do get meat with a botfly larva, if you kill a squirrel out of season in the summer, rabbit, whatever, just cut that meat out and get that larva out. The rest of the meat is safe to eat. So don't freak out about that.
Yeah. But it is generally safer to eat, small animals like that after you've had a couple of good hard frosts.
Yeah. That was always our rule down in Mississippi where I grew up when we were squirrel and rabbit hunting. Do it after the first 2 frosts.
Why do you think the season's in the winter?
Right. Exactly, man. Yeah. Yeah. Bear does need to be cooked very, very good. Low show. Man, there's so much good information out here. And if you have other questions, we're definitely not the end all be all.
Oh,
we're not Bear Grylls. I mean, oh my God, I'm in the desert. Better drink my own piss. So we don't want to.
Not Bear Grylls, but we will.
You're just driving through the desert. Why are you drinking your pee?
Why are you drinking your pee, dude? We're driving. Here's water right there. We just gotta make sure that you're prepared. That's the big thing, is making sure you are prepared for all these eventualities. Can you ever be prepared for every eventuality? No. Absolutely.
But a little preparedness goes a long way.
But better, man. Being proactive is a lot less painful than being reactive.
And worst case scenario, you've got some extra supplies on hand. Best case scenario, it could save your life.
Right. Absolutely. And if you got canned goods, just do it. My wife and I, God love her, man. She's OCD, and I love this about her, because in our we call it our zombie closet, we've got our canned goods, and we'll write the expiration date on the top of the can. And as we see it getting close, be honest, it's going to be good way past that if it's not swollen. We'll freaking grab that can out, put that on our shopping list and go get it and rotate it and write the expiration date on that. And we're continually rotating the oldest to newest stock out. And so those are just good things to have, man. Those are good things to have. Sonya, I'm with you. I like Les Stroud too. Les Stroud's a
Les Stroud. I'd love to get Les on the show.
oh my God, he's had a cryptid encounter too.
Yeah, he did the Survivor Man Bigfoot series for a while.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
He had it was Port Lock, wasn't it? DA?
Oh my God. Mark hit on something that we hadn't even talked about all night, and I was gonna mention it, and I thought about this: physical shape, physical fitness. How can you expect to bug out if you can't even make it 100 yards without getting winded? Try to get yourself in as good a shape as possible, and because that's going to lessen your comorbidities anyway. But it's also going to make you more of an asset in a survival situation rather than being an organic resupply point.
And that's when you've got to question yourself if it's for health reasons. I mean, if you cannot physically exercise, like if you're in a wheelchair, or if you've got situations that you're not going to be able to, that's when you've got to really consider bugging in. You've got to ride it out. And unfortunately, that's just the truth.
No, I mean, DA's 100%. I mean, it's not ugly. It's just that gives you a direction to go. Okay, which way am I going to be going out, or am I going to be staying in? And then if I'm going to be staying in, how do I harden my facility so that I'm staying in my domicile so that I'm not a soft target? I need to make myself as secure a facility as possible, make sure that I'm stocked up on things, and make sure that my quality of life doesn't diminish that greatly if you have other pre-existing conditions that may preclude you from bugging out. So
and one thing you guys want to bear in mind, and that's something they've talked about a lot, is the potentiality for us getting EMP'd by a major solar storm. If that happens, no car made after 1982 is going to start.
Definitely things to think about. For sure. Yeah. And somebody else covered it on here talking about check the liver, make sure it doesn't have spots. And somebody had already talked about that could equal tularemia. Yeah, rabbit fever.
But heck, we could go another 2 hours and not even exhaust this topic.
I mean, this could be an honestly, DA, I think, and Robbie, I think, would agree with this. This could be an ongoing series.
Yeah.
For us to address things that maybe we hadn't addressed in the other shows that we've done. Definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I agree. I think doing an occasional show on survival and what situations and things like that, I think that's a good one to add to the repertoire. Yeah,
I mean, and even if it's not a SHTF situation, what if you're just out in the woods? What if you're out looking for your favorite cryptid, and you get into a situation where you have to survive for a night due to getting socked in with inclement weather or something like that? All of these tips and tricks we're talking about can definitely make a difference between somebody living and somebody dying.
Yeah. 443 Big Vic was talking about Faraday devices for electronics. Yeah, but unless you've got a Faraday cage big enough to park your car in, you're still probably going to lose your vehicle.
Yeah. I know my metal pole barn is damn near a Faraday cage, because when I go there, I'd have 0 cell service, which is good. No radio signals getting out. Oh man. Well, we are
at the magic hour.
40 seconds from the 2 hour mark. Wow. It has gone by fast. We've had a good time.
I totally agree. Folks, and again, we're gonna encourage you guys to check out Scallywag Tactical, but in a situation like this, a damn good knife is key. I mean, one of the greatest inventions we ever made as humans is a knife, because that knife is going to be so many things. You can make, you can make tinder, your fuel for starting a fire. You can skin animals. You can, oh man, there's a million and one uses. Cutting cordage. Opening boxes. I use my knife for so much stuff. Have a good knife on hand. I just can't stress that enough. And if you all that's in your budget is going to Walmart and buying a $5 pocket knife, it's better than not having one. But I would highly recommend getting a good quality knife.
Yep.
Cole L says knives don't run out of ammunition.
It's true.
Sorry about that. Yeah, keep a good whetstone and know how to use it. But even if you don't know how to use one, like we're saying, those little cheap Bud K knife sharpening kits, they do a good job they get a lot of bang for your buck out of one of those. Yeah, you can get them for like $5 a piece and clip them to your pack strap.
Yeah.
Northwest Native Tracker. Yeah, you can make other tools with a knife. You can take a piece of duct tape or 550 cord and tie a knife to the end of a stick you picked up off the ground, and now you got a spear.
Rambo did it.
Damn right. And just and remember, common sense goes a long way. You just if you think there might be problems on the horizon, and I know Robbie is the perfect example of having to deal with something that Mother Nature threw at him. Mother Nature can be a real mother. I mean, she sure can. I've seen natural disasters here in the Ozarks. Doc's seen them. Robbie's seen them. He's facing one right now. In a situation like that, it's not. There's no politics to it. There's no race or religion to it. It affected everybody, and you can do one of two things. You can be a helpful, good human being, or you can be a piece of crap. And Lord knows we've seen the pieces of crap. Rioting in the streets, looting when things go bad.
Yep.
No, one thing I learned in almost 20 years in law enforcement, there are only two types of people in this world. There's good people and there's pieces of crap. No, that's just pretty much how I look at life. You're either a good person or you're a piece of crap.
Amen. Amen. And don't forget to take care of your fellow person right there next to you, your fellow man. Take care of each other. Get to know your neighbors, folks, because if you got neighbors, bless you. Get to know your neighbors if you got neighbors, because y'all may need to lean on each other in hard, difficult times. And if you don't like your neighbors, that's fine too. Just stick to yourself, you damn hermit.
I've got good neighbors and I've had bad neighbors, but right now I've got some pretty good neighbors.
Right. I do too. They're far away, but they're still good folks, man. Yeah. I mean, good information all around. Greg's been giving us good information. Edie, stock up on over-the-counter meds. You can't have enough of that stuff for your little incidental stuff. So yeah, make sure.
Robbie and I were talking about this book earlier today. It's called The Lost Ways. It's available on Amazon, and there's about a dozen other books like it, I think, by the same author, or at least in the same category, that'll teach you how to do things the pioneers used to do. And
yes.
Those books are invaluable.
I've got two. I'm with it. There's how many of them are out there? Because I've got two.
I've got four.
Okay. I've got two. Those things are tremendous resources. And that one you talk about, I got the Herbal Medic and the SAS Survival Handbook. Those are all other good books to have. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man. I mean, like I said, we could do a whole nother show just on your available informational resources out there.
Jay, the book is called The Lost Ways.
Yeah.
Great book. Fantastic book. I highly recommend getting a copy of that, because that one book alone will give you enough information that in a bad situation you'd know how to find shelter, how to find water, that kind of thing. It's a very useful book, and the recipes in it are gold. They really are.
Yep. Great books, man. Great books.
Cole L says, if worse comes to worse, some animal meds work for humans, aka antibiotics, and pet stores, but do search.
Absolutely.
Well, at the end of the day, we're an animal too, and what works on us will probably work on what works on animals will probably work on us. Just the trick is just because they prescribe antibiotics for your cat doesn't mean that same dosage is going to do diddly for you because you're 40 times its body weight.
Yeah, I mean Rangers when I cut a cyst out of him, I mean his dosage for Keflex is the same as mine because he was 110 pounds. So he got a grown-up dose of Keflex. You know what I mean? So things to think about.
Yeah. What affects your Chihuahua may not affect you.
Oh man.
Another one that I mentioned earlier is the SAS Survival Guide. Highly recommend keeping a copy of that. But I've got a copy in my pack and a copy on my shelf. I cannot recommend that one enough. I am feeling a lot better, folks. You've heard me coughing quite a bit tonight. I've still got a little tickle in my throat, and it's mostly broken up, and I'm at the point where I'm mostly just hacking up phlegm. So hopefully that's going to be getting better. But I am planning on doing the story time tomorrow night. Good Lord's willing, and the creeks don't rise. So we'll be doing a story hour tomorrow night at about eight times, like we always do. And if you guys are up for it and excited about it, I thought we might do Demons Part 1, the Margolin story, and then next week we'll do Demons 2. I don't know if Robbie will be able to join us because of his internet situation, but we'll if nothing else, it'll just be me, and I can sit and read a story to y'all, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. The last one was pretty popular, and I've got a lot of positive feedback on it, so this is something we're going to plan on doing for a while. And sorry. And if I start running out of short stories, or even might intersperse it in there somewhere, I'm thinking about starting with the Ragnarok Rising saga and doing 3 or 4 chapters a night, and over the course of a few weeks, and do it like a radio serial. We'll do a few chapters of Ragnarok, and when I get that series done, who knows, we'll move on to another one.
I think I'll be getting into Wyoming I'll be in Wyoming on Wednesday. DA, I'm going up to see John. Mm-hmm. So, but he's got good Wi-Fi, so we could do that. That'd be fun.
I was going to do the story night tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay, I thought you said it was Wednesday night. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, Wednesday night we're going to have the regular show, and we'll be giving away the ouch pouch.
Well, yeah, I should be able to be around tomorrow night.
All right. Robbie probably won't be able to because this has been rough on his internet just doing it. But if and him sitting there in the red light of a patrol car, probably not the easiest thing to sit there and read. Robbie, what do you think?
I'll try. I mean, if I wake up tomorrow and I got power, then great, I'll do it. But who knows?
Well, let me know. I'll go ahead and get the show set up, and if it's just me and Doc, then we'll just get through it. And
you see me keep looking over my shoulder. Somebody parked over there behind me now.
Man, I know. I've been praying for you the whole night, brother. Cole L said, as long as you do the Atlantic Coast voice of the tune, the next week for the end of the story time, you'll be fine.
Well, I will do my best. Sonia, we're right there with you. We're all praying for Robbie and all the people that are affected in his area and people that are affected everywhere. And again, folks, if you want to help, don't send anything to us. Like Greg House was saying, send it to some of the churches in that area that are doing good work. Send it to the Convoy of Hope. Send it to the American Red Cross or the Salvation Army, people that are actually going to be helping in that area. So, a lot of YouTubers are taking opportunity to try to get donations out of this, and I don't want that. Don't send us a nickel. Send it to them because they need it more than we do. And right now, My prayers and my heart's with all those folks, especially my brother Robbie right there. I already told him, if he lived a little closer, I got a couch. He said 16 hours in a car with Cap and Bucky would probably drive him insane. They'd eat your back seat before you got here.
Yeah. I would make it 15 minutes where I'd be like, all right, you two, I'm going to turn this car around.
Don't you make me stop this car.
I got a feeling Cap, Bucky, and Harley would get along, though. Those three idiots would be running around the backyard playing.
Oh, mercy. Oh, man. Oh.
Yeah, people in North Carolina, there's like over 500 roads in North Carolina closed. So all along the East Coast and even further inland, like Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, people are getting their homes destroyed. They're getting their livelihoods destroyed. Towns are flooded. Make sure you guys tonight when you say your prayers, keep a prayer out for those folks that are affected by this. And if you're going to donate to churches and to organizations like Convoy of Hope, because that's where your money's going to do its most good. Pine Nut Yoder says, I got hit pretty hard, but I'm within walking distance of Lake Lure. My house was on an island. Oof. And what was it? Is it in Tennessee where that dam's about to fail?
Lake Lure. What he was talking about, that's in North Carolina, I believe.
North Carolina. Okay, I knew it was somewhere up that way. There was a dam that they're afraid is going to fail. But anyway, I digress again. I hope you guys will join us tomorrow night for story time. And again, kind of winding things up, we're going to mention the 22 a day foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. So check out the 22 a day. Check out the Officer Down Memorial page to see the toll that's taken on our officers in uniform. And if you've got a friend or family member that's a first responder or veteran or active duty, reach out to them. Let them know you're thinking about them, because you never know when. Well, hell, Doc just got one the other night. Hey, fucker, are you awake? At 2:00 in the morning texts, and you never know when that text might be what keeps somebody off the edge. Fortunately, that night it was just because I needed to pick Doc's brain for a book item. But I have also texted Doc and Robbie, "Hey, you awake?" Because I needed to talk, and that's something that I'm blessed to have. So folks, keep that in mind, because some folks don't have that support system. So if you like I said, if you know anybody, loved one, family, friend, or a friend of yours personally, anybody you care about, reach out and let them know you're thinking about them, because it might make the difference. And we've been winding up the show with a toast here lately, and it's something I'm pretty proud of and something I want to continue to do. And the toast is from an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass." And I've heard you guys. I know you guys have heard me make the spiel about that many a time, but it's a beautiful song, and it's talking about a lot more than just saying goodnight to the folks at the bar when they close the doors. It's about saying goodbye to the ones we've lost along the way. So you guys join me. It doesn't matter what you're toasting with. I've got water tonight. I'm trying to stay away from everything else because of my throat. I'm sorry about that, because of my throat. And join us for a toast. And the toast says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone. Slanja.
Flash it.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.